Come on and cry me a river. Cry me a river. I cried a river over
Hello and welcome again this Sunday special edition. Just because I don't have too much to do and I really enjoyed this, so welcome and I hope you're doing well. Is World War III already begun or already finished? I hope so. It's looking very fast and furious. Let's hope the best for the world. And you, how's your weekend doing? I hope very well as well. Or very well too. Today I have 2 articles and 2 very short videos from X that we're gonna go through. If everything's go well, of course. Never knows. First in line, we have our champion, Winter Olympic champion, talking to us about very important things, metacognition abilities, let's say. She says we can become exactly who we want to become. We can control our thoughts. We can control our mind. We can make that 8-year version of us proud. Okay, let's listen to it. Let me check the audio first, please. By the music. And let's go.
Do you think before you speak? Because you answer questions so quickly and so comprehensively, whether it's about geopolitics or your sport or aerodynamics. Like, can you take us into your brain?
Thank you, Charlotte. That's very kind. Oh, man. I think overall, I'm just a pensive person. Like, I'm an introspective young woman. Like, I spend a lot of time in my head, and it's not a bad place to be. I journal a lot. I break down all of my thought processes. I think I apply a very analytical lens to my own thinking, and I kind of modify it because it's so interesting. You can control what you think. Like, you can control how you think, and therefore you can control who you are. And especially as a young person, like I'm 22, so with neuroplasticity on my side, I can literally become exactly who I want to be. How cool is that? Like, how empowering is that, right? And so the fact is, I get to become every day the kind of person that me at age 8 would revere. Like, I would be obsessed with me today. Are you kidding? I would love me. And I think that's the biggest flex of all time, that you can have like little younger you be proud of you today. And so I guess for me, it's like, yes, I spend a lot of time in my own head. Yes, I think a lot, but it's not really like in an egotistical kind of way. It's in like a tinkering, like a scientist kind of way. I'm always like trying to modify. I'm trying to think, how can I be better? How can I approach my own brain the way that I approach my craft of free skiing, so that I can be better tomorrow than I was today?
That is a very nice and wise advice. Oh, I'm rhyming. sorry. This is one, the first one. The second one is about a theory of consciousness on quantum physics or something like that I'm still trying to understand. So let's go together. If maybe we can see if it's bullshit or not, or if you can understand something of it. Let's see. I'm very interested.
Here's my claim. Our theory, the Orca-Aura theory, has more explanatory power, connection to biology, and experimental evidence than all the other theories of consciousness combined. We have way, way more data. They don't have any data. There's not a single experiment that supports IIT or any of the theories that couldn't be explained by our theories. Because really all we have now is hand-waving emergence, complexity, blah, blah, blah bullshit.
Dr. Stuart Hameroff is the controversial consciousness researcher and anesthesiologist who spent 49 years putting people to sleep and his entire career trying to figure out exactly what he is switching off. Alongside Nobel Prize-winning physicist Sir Roger Penrose, he co-created Orchestrated Objective Reduction, ORC-OR, the most ambitious and controversial theory of consciousness ever proposed, arguing that the secret to awareness isn't in your neurons firing, but in quantum vibrations happening inside structures called microtubules, deep within every cell of your body. Subscribe because your consciousness might literally be hallucinating salad of quantum olive oil and Fibonacci spirals, and you owe it to yourself to find out what the hell that means.
Anesthesia is the best way to understand consciousness. Microtubules have orchestrated quantum oscillations that are completely synchronized and coherent. So anesthesia comes along and makes the orchestrated, synchronized quantum stuff random. More and more evidence accrues that anesthesia is acting on microtubules. And so people in anesthesia who don't like the microtubule idea, maybe I've been too obnoxious and in their face about it because I think they're being really stupid about it. Won't even think about it. The anesthetic mechanism research mafia, you might call them, are in a state of denial and bewilderment. It should be the Rosetta Stone for consciousness. It tells us potentially so much. And they've had to just get rid of it. Microtubules, now forget it. So they're totally clueless. And they don't, I'm not very popular among them because I think we do have the evidence.
Okay, now I have a website where we can see a map of all the theory of consciousness that exists. Or maybe almost all. For sure not all, but let's see it. So we can have an idea of how vast this field is. Okay, here we have. Ooh, it's too big. Too big. We have the materialism, non-reductive physicalism, quantum and dimensions. Maybe this is where our recent video we saw is. Yes, Penrose, maybe, I don't know. Information, panpsychism, monism, dualism, a lot. We can see one of them. Let's check one with a very famous author. We can, okay, Penrose Hameroff. That's the orchestrated objective reduction. But there's a lot more here. Okay, maybe later. Maybe later. I don't find any famous name, so. Entropic. Let's see anyone. Entropic theories explain consciousness in special relationships with the second law of thermodynamics, entropy. While the brain is always and obviously involved, here there is something special about entropy in endowing consciousness with its deceptive sense of non-physical nature. I don't know. Let's go to the articles. We're gonna visit this web often, I hope. I'm gonna save the link so we can check some different theories of or definitions of what consciousness is. First article up. Consciousness formed before life itself, scientists say, and the evidence could be in this asteroid sample. How's the music? Too loud? Okay. Tantalizing clues in the 4 billion-year-old asteroid Bennu samples could indicate the molecular formations that some scientists say support the mechanisms of consciousness by Susan Lahey. Published in January 16, 2026, very recent. Let's zoom in a little bit so you can read it. 2. Here's what you learn when you read this story. Scientists found organic compounds in the asteroid Bennu samples that are essential for life on Earth. But it could also contain molecules that may be necessary for forming consciousness. A theory exists that the brain taps into an external form of consciousness and processes it on a quantum level. Yeah, we read an article about how our brain can connect with any place in the universe because quantum entanglement or something like that. Bennu could contain the structures that allow the kind of quantum resonance. I like resonance. The kind of quantum resonance the brain needs to access. If so, it could mean that consciousness already existed before life formed on Earth. Some scientists think. Very interesting. Let's see. Let's dive into the proper article. Every 6 years, an asteroid by the name of Bennu passes by Earth. Bennu is a small, loosely compact ball of black rocks that formed nearly 4.6 billion years ago. Recently, scientists accomplished an unprecedented feat, sending a spacecraft billions of miles to the asteroid and back to collect 122.6 grams of material from Bennu for study at an Arizona State University lab. NASA tasked the OSIRIS-REx team that retrieved material from Bennu in September 2023 to examine it for clues to the nature of origins of life. Tantalizing evidence in the Bennu sample suggests that the asteroid contains constituents of the primordial soup that scientists believe likely led to life emerging on Earth. But that's not all. It could also contain particular molecules that could have formed crystalline formations that some scientists believe are key to consciousness. Are those the microtubules? These formations may have been present among organic molecules for 100 million years before genes existed, enabling the earliest forms of decision-making and self-organization into life. According to Dr. Stuart Hameroff. It's the same dude? Yes, it's the same dude. A former. We are reading an article directly connected with the video we saw before. I didn't know that. I'm sorry. Or maybe it's good, I don't know, to elaborate on it. A former anesthesiologist and one of the world's leading experts on consciousness, the director of the Bennu team, Dante Lauretta, reached out to him before they had received the samples. Both are at Arizona State University. Lauretta was wondering how one might find signs of life in the material they were about to receive and found an intriguing paper by Dr. Hameroff on the nature of consciousness and carbon molecules. Microtubules. The prevailing theory of consciousness is that humans manufacture it inside the brain, that it boils down to a computation. Yet, Dr. Hameroff and his collaborator, Nobel laureate and physicist Roger Penrose, have argued for decades that consciousness made the world, and not the other way around. They believe that it is not manufactured in the brain, but only processed there via an external quantum wave function sweeping through the universe that interacts with tiny proteins tubes. Oh, I didn't know that. These microtubules form the cytoskeleton of living cells and are especially plentiful in brain cells. Hameroff, Penrose, and their collaborator, physicist and oncologist Jack Tuszynski, demonstrated in 2023 that quantum activity in the brain could take place in these microtubules. According to this idea, known as orchestrated objective reduction theory, conscious moments occur almost constantly as the quantum wave functions collapses, creating moments of conscious awareness. Hameroff names these quantum wave functions proto-consciousness or dream state consciousness. Their other collaborator, quantum mechanics expert Anirban Bandyopadhyaya, sorry sir, PhD, calls it the music of the universe. Consciousness in the universe can be compared to a Tibetan singing bowl. When you run a mallet around the rim of the ball, the sound grows as the vibration from the mallet resonates in the ball. The longer you run the mallet around the ball, the louder the song gets as the vibrational resonance increases. A little bit of water. When universal consciousness, or the music of the universe, hits the consciousness chambers of the microtubules, the resonance grows like the mallet and the bow. And here's where Bennu comes in. The asteroid is made up of carbons, the molecules that form the basis of all life. Researchers found that the samples include 14 of the 20 amino acids that life on Earth uses to make proteins. The bits of rock also contain all 5 nucleobases used to store and transmit genetic instructions in more complex biomolecules, such as DNA and RNA. Plus, the team found salts, evidence that the larger space object which Bennu broke away from may have contained a similar primordial soup to Earth's own 4 billion years ago. These are all signs pointing to Bennu as a repository of life's precursors. But what about signs of consciousness? Bennu also could contain the structures that allow the kind of quantum resonance Hameroff believes are needed for consciousness. These are organic ring molecules whose extra electrons form electron clouds that exchange photons, as in fluorescence. Organic rings are key components of biomolecules. And if you have a bunch forming a specific periodic crystalline formation, like an array or lattice, Hameroff says they become quantum oscillators that are able to support consciousness. Wow! Sounds very cool. In the human brain, he said, it's these quantum oscillators in our microtubules that give us our conscious experiences. Neurons are incredibly complex. Each neuronal cell comprises billions of microtubules that are oscillating or passing electrons back and forth at the astonishing speed of 10 at the 15 times per second. What? Quantum time. Conventional brain studies have only looked at brain activity in a narrow range, frequencies around 40 Hz or cycles per second in the millisecond time range. But Dr. Anirban, I'm gonna say, and his team at Japan's National Institute of Material Sciences found that there are, in fact, 3 bands of frequencies that conduct electricity at the neuron level, 3 bands of higher frequencies at the microtubule level, and 3 bands of even higher frequencies at the level of tubulin. Oh no, that's a new one, tubulin. I have to see that. The material microtubules are made of. Okay. So microtubules are made of tubulins. If I understand right. The materials microtubules are made of. Okay. Within each frequency, another 3 bands or frequencies operate. A triple of triplets. I'm remembering Tesla and his numbers, his preferred numbers and frequencies to understand the universe or something like that. 3, 6, 9. Dr. Anirban's team concluded that most cognitive, perceptive, and emotional bursts occur around 200 and 700 nanoseconds. The famous cortisol spike. and stay with us for hours or days, I'm not sure. They believe this triplet of triplets pattern of resonance is a fundamental pattern of the universe. It's also found in DNA, RNA, and other molecules. Hameroff said, so they hope to find evidence of it in the Bennu material. Oh, it continues. I thought it was the end. The asteroid material, of course, is not as complex as a neuron. However, Hameroff postulates that while the earliest qualia consciousness experience, qualia is a conscious experiences unit, would have been random, organisms experiencing the pleasure of a spark of consciousness would have sought more. They would have experimented and organized themselves in such a way as to maximize the likelihood of creating another such experience. After all, even single-celled organisms eat, swim around, have sex. Hameroff thinks these polyaromatic ring molecules might have organized themselves to increase opportunities for conscious quantum experiences. Loretta says that polyaromatic ring molecules are everywhere in space, including in interstellar dust. These are the same molecules which are the basis of organic chemistry and life. Hameroff says, so we realize cooperative quantum oscillations among polyaromatics might be signs of life. We could test in Bennu samples. What is polyaromatics? What is this? I have to look up to this term. I'm sorry. Polyaromaticos, polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, are a class of organic compounds composed of 2 or more fused benzene rings, primarily formed by the incomplete combustion of organic matter, such as coal, oil. Okay. Let's continue. I'm sorry. Meanwhile, Hameroff is working to demonstrate that anesthesia works to block consciousness by blocking electrical signals between molecules in the microtubules. That might be all it takes to interrupt consciousness. If found, Hameroff says a test using anesthesia gases might block the oscillations, just as human brains. We could claim some justification for consciousness being present and causal at life's origins. A strange end of an article, but very interesting, clear, extends. And what else we have? Why organisms are more than machines. This is the second article I have to. Let's see, from Big Think by Adam Frank. February 18, 2026. Excuse me. Let's wait the music. 60 years ago, a little-known philosopher challenged how science understands life. His perspective is finding new relevance in the age of artificial intelligence. We are living in the age of maximum AI hype. A superintelligence that surpasses humanity is going to emerge at any moment, according to the most breathless corners of the tech world. There are basic technical grounds to be skeptical to that claim, but beyond that, a much deeper issue lies at the boundary between science and philosophy. What makes life different from non-life? Why is a rock inert and insensate, while even the simplest cell manifests open-ended activity in the relentless pursuit of staying alive? Since the only systems that indisputably display intelligence are alive, if we can't understand life, we're probably missing something essential about intelligence. "60 years ago, an influential but little-known philosopher named Hans Jonas gave a potent, creative, and radical answer to this question of what makes life different from non-life. In the decades since, the power and reach of his perspective have gained traction. Today, for a growing group of researchers in fields ranging from neuroscience to the physics of complex systems, Jonas has become an incisive voice arguing forcefully that organisms are more than just machines, and minds are more than just computers." Hans Jonas, never heard from him before? You? Let's discover. A philosophy of life. Jonas was born in Germany in 1903. For his PhD, he studied phenomenology, a then new approach that philosophy that attempts to study conscious experiences from the inside. Suspending of something. His PhD advisor was Martin Heidegger, one of the most famous philosophers of his time. When the Nazis rose to power, Heidegger was initially supportive of the party. Jonas, however, fled Germany, vowing to return as part of a victorious, liberating force. He fulfilled this vow via a special brigade of Jewish soldiers fighting in the British Army. in the post-war years, as other philosophers attempt to publicly rehabilitate Heidegger, who was without doubt a brilliant philosopher, Jonas would have no part of it, instead writing a scathing repudiation of his former mentor. Good. We always should do that. That's how science and thinking evolve, right? He never lost his interest in phenomenology or in the primacy of experience as the key to understanding life. Though, in Jonas' time, as today, most scientists and philosophers took a reductionist perspective on living systems. Organisms, in this view, are simple atoms in motion. There's nothing special about life, and experience is just an epiphenomenon, something that emerged, right? Spontaneously. Not even emerge, appear. An illusion or bioproduct. Reductionism's central claim is that the life is nothing more than a complicated molecular machine, robots made of protoplasm, tissue, and bone programmed by evolution. Biology, like everything else, should ultimately reduce to physics. Reductionism, however, is not a scientific result. It is not what science says. It's a philosophy. It's a set of metaphysical arguments about what exists in the world. Exactly, when a Nobel Prize in mathematics start to talk about theology or metaphysics, they start to make errors. But since they think, and everybody thinks, winning a Nobel Prize in some field make you a genius in everything, we have a lot of problems because of that, I would say. Jonas, as a skilled philosopher, knew there were other ways to skin that cat. And in 1966, well, to skin that cat? I never heard that before. Sounds very oriental. And in 1966, he published The Phenomenon of Life towards a philosophical biology. In the book, he laid out a series of powerful arguments for why life is more than simply complicated physics. For a theoretical physicist like me, it's in the book's third chapter. Is God a mathematician? The meaning of metabolism. That Jonas really goes for reductionism jugular. Good! Could the perfect God of perfect physics see life? There's a famous story of the great physicist Pierre-Simon Laplace representing his theory of planetary motion to Napoleon. Using Newton's powerful mechanics, Laplace could predict the motion of the planets far into the future. Napoleon asked Laplace something like, "But where's God in your theory?" Laplace famously answered, "I have no need of that hypothesis." Hypothesis, not fingo, or something like that is the original in Latin, if I'm not wrong. I'm sure I'm wrong, but what Laplace meant was that if you knew the exact position and momentum of every particle in the universe, then, in principle, Newton's law would let you predict with certainty everything that is going to happen. Yes, landing to the moon in the moon is Newton's law result, right? Or no? Please let me know if I'm wrong. Of course, only a super being or a godlike computer could know the position and momenta of every particle in the universe and compute their trajectories far into the future. That's what communists do with economy, right? They say they know the price should be, what the price should be. So, according to Millet, communist economy pretend that that's why the famous book from Hayek is the fatal conceit or the fatal conceit or something like that. I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm sorry. Let's continue. That is the kind of God that Jonas is gunning for, as he takes on the Laplacian dream of reducing life to nothing but atoms in chapter 3, or what's called the third essay of his book. Imagine Jonas says that such a God is going about its business of following particles as they carrying off one another like an infinite spray of micro marbles extending through infinite space. This God would watch as collections of atoms came together to form associations for some time before dissolving again as their motions carried them away. Some of those associations might be rocks, some might be stars, and some might be living organisms. From there, I was drinking some water. From there, Jonas asks a simple question. Could this Laplacian God recognize the living associations from the dead ones? Could this perfect God of perfect physics see life? To frame this question, Jonas notes that life is not simply the matter from which it's composed. Instead, every organism is what physicists call an open thermodynamic system. The atoms you're made of today are not the atoms you will be made of a year from now. Let alone 7 years, all your atoms will be renewed, or your cells at least. Energy and matter are constantly flowing through every cell. This means that living systems are not stable collections of atoms like a rock. Instead, they are stable patterns that persist through time. The Theseus ship. Another way to say this is that life is not about specific bits of matter, it's about a specific kind of organization through which matter and energy pass. This emphasis on organization becomes a central point in Jonas' argument. The Laplacian God can only see states of atoms, their positions and velocities at each moment. Its ability to see the future is limited to just seeing future atomic states, i.e., future positions and velocities. For Jonas, no momentary state of a body could contain the secret of being alive, no matter how detailed that state was described. Jonas is asking if the Laplacian God, knowing only the momentary clouds of atomic associations, could tell the difference between a living body with its experience and newly diseased corpse that had none. Wow, what a clever observation. What makes an organism? The cutting power of this insight becomes sharper when Jonas begins unpacking the unique kind of organization organisms embody. Let me see if the music is not over. Oh no, we have a couple of tracks more, or at least one. Yeah, 8 minutes of music. I have more music, no problem. The cutting power of this insight becomes sharper when Jonas begins unpacking the unique kind of organization organisms embody. It was the great philosopher Immanuel Kant who first articulated the idea that living systems are self-organized. The classic example of this is the cell membrane, which is necessary for the cell to function, but is also a product of the cell's function. This chicken and egg self-referentiality is what Jonas means as highlighting the word metabolism in the chapter title. For him, metabolism is not simply a sequence of biochemical reactions, it's the ongoing self-referential self-organization that must continue if an organism is to maintain itself, i.e., stay alive. For him, differences between life and death do not revolve around particular material components. Instead, they lie in the ongoing performance of a certain kind of activity, the self-organization of metabolism. Cool. For Jonas, metabolism represents a profound new dimension of possibility that emerges into the universe when life forms. One to which the Laplacian God would be blind. Thus, even as this God would know everything about atoms and their motion, it could not know what was happening in the living systems. As Jonas famously wrote, life can be known only by life. Wow! Great dude, this Jonas! Life always has purpose. Teleology. What specifically emerges in this new dimension made possibly the metabolism? What specifically emerges in this new dimension made possibly by metabolism? What a hard question. I don't even understand the question. I'm sorry. You can read it by yourself. Jonas articulates a series of features that make life unique compared to other objects or systems in the universe. The first and most important features are interiority and individuality. Even the simplest cells exist as individuals that live within a boundary separating interior self from environment, world. It's here that you can see Jonas' interest in experience as a philosophical question. For him, all life, even the simplest bacteria, have a degree of sentience, the feeling of being alive. The cell's individuality is a process that it must actively maintain for itself through its own actions that are only possible because it actively maintains its self-organization. In a sense, the self-referential loop of those actions is experience. How could the Laplacian God see the interiority and experience that emerge with the cell? Fair question. An essence of what distinguishes life is what Jonas calls needful freedom. Every organism must actively maintain itself against the continuous threat of its own dissolution. The boundary that defines interiority and individuality is the freedom that came into being when life formed. By becoming an individual, the life form is free or separate from the environment in a way that's impossible for a rock. Jonas co-emphasizes on need, however, is the organism's endless and ongoing dependence on the world for the materials required for metabolism. Because of this need, life is inherently precarious. This knife's edge, on which all organisms balance from bacteria to humans, introduces another dimension into being. Purposiveness. Life always has a purpose. For bacteria, the purpose is simply to stay alive. The purpose is simply to stay alive. As organisms become more complex, new purposes emerge, such as maintaining status within social networks, or eventually creating meaning through activities like art or science or reading articles. Purpose is intrinsic to organisms. With the emergence of life, something for the sake of which has been introduced into the universe that, again, the Laplacian God could neither see nor predict. Okay, this is the last part, I think. Let's go! A new perspective on life. In building his arguments, Jonas was rejecting both dualism, which sees mind and matter as entirely different, and reductionism, which rejects life as having a special status above mere mechanics. For Jonas, there was a world of matter from which life emerged, but what emerged was fundamentally new and different from what came before. While scientists and philosophers continue to debate the nature of such emergentism, to emerge is something that exists as is underwater, for example, and then comes up. But I'm not even agreeing of the use of the term for the concept, So, okay, no, that's another discussion. Let's continue. There's no doubt that Jonas' work triggered a slow, steady reconsideration of life beyond reductionism. A clear example of this is the idea of autopoiesis, a term coined by the great Chilean biological theorist Humberto Maturana. I have exclusive archives from him in my channel. You can find it in Systemic Psychology, the playlist, in the Systemic Psychology list. We have Maturana, we have a lot of other interesting historic figures talking. We have the video, the audios, everything. You can enjoy it. So, the autopoiesis from Maturana and Varela in the latest 1970s, a system is autopoietic when it is both self-creating and self-maintaining. Maturana and Varela's further work on autopoiesis in the 80s and 90s was an explicit scientific attempt to articulate the special nature of biological self-organization. We have self-authorization as a key for self-organization. Another video from great cyberneticians, Stuart Amplaby, as well in my channel. You can find it about self-authorization, key for self-organization. Self-authorization, the key for self-organization. Another step in Jonas' direction. Oh, the music is out. Another one. Let's hear a little bit of funk. Oh, my battery is dying. No, this not. Sorry. Let's go with this. Ooh, another step in Jonas' direction came with the theoretical biologist Robert Rosen, who also in the 1980s developed a mathematical account of organisms as metabolism repair systems, or MR systems. John falls apart. From these decades, terms like autopoiesis. Oh, my computer is crashing. Links from the articles down the description below. Oh, okay, we are okay. Began appearing more frequently in the study of complex adaptive systems, a modern multidisciplinary approach to understanding life. Yeah, they're working since the 50s, almost 75 years ago. I have a lot of videos archived with these non-mainstream scientists working together, from physicists, engineers, anthropologists. And now it disappeared. The archives are lost. I have a copy for sure, but now it's an institution that is not the same. I'm not gonna go into it, but it's not the same. Went broke. While reductionism perspectives still tend to dominate in science, there's a growing understanding that its value has played out, and that the new approaches are needed to tackle cutting-edge problems in life, cognition, and intelligence, wherever they may be found. This is particularly true in light of the rapid advances in AI. Claims about the immanence of superintelligence or sentient AI agents ran headlong into Jonas' penetrating analysis about what makes life, as the only systems which show agency, sentience, and intelligence What makes life different? Okay, this in the middle of the phrase sentences break my brain. I'm sorry. As the new non-reductionist approaches gain traction and bear fruit, they will have a direct effect not only on these AI debates, but also on science as a whole. Through it all, it will be Hans Jonas, the principled philosopher of life and experience, who will stand as a true pioneer of the new vision of life and nature. In his quiet way, he took the first brave steps toward making us aware of the needfully free, radically new dimension of the cosmos each of us represents. Good. This was Adam Frank, astrophysicist. Great, sir. Thank you very much. And with this, we're done. Thank you to you too for being here. I wish you the rest of the weekend. I wish you good to the rest of the weekend and the Monday for tomorrow. Thank you very much. Have a nice one. See you the next one. Bye.
Come on and cry me a river. Cry me a river. I cried a river